Hi, I'm Paul McGuire, and many people want to know how to get out of debt and build wealth. And I'm going to tell you it's not what you think it is. So stay with me on this video. I'm going to talk about how to build wealth to pay off your debt. We're going to start right here, right now. Okay, we're going to talk about how getting into debt can actually get you wealthy and help you pay off your debt. So where many people think just focus on the debt, we're going to talk about focusing on wealth to pay off your debt. Two, I'm going to talk about how by building wealth and using real estate, you can get rid of a lot of your debt. And three, we're going to talk about inflation and how that can also help get rid of your debt. So let's dive right in. Here we go. So one of the ways that I've been able to pay off a lot of debt is by refinancing properties that I got into debt to buy. Now this seems a little backwards because a lot of people that when they want to get out of debt, they think, well, I need to pay off my debt first and then I can get into real estate or other debt. And the answer to that is maybe, maybe not. It depends. But what I've found is that I would rather buy assets and have those assets start to cash flow and build cash flow and equity, and then refinance and use some of that refinance cash to pay off the debt that I've accumulated in terms of operating my business, running my life, or buying assets. Now, for many of you, the challenge with being in debt, and I congratulate you for watching this video, is that many people don't even know where they are. So one of the ways that I recommend in terms of you figuring out what your debt is that write it all down. Take your past due debts and write those down. Write down your current debts, what you owe of say $15,000 or less, and then debts greater than $15,000, like a car loan. And then greater than that, like long-term debt, like a mortgage or a line of credit, okay? And put all those debts down and look at them. Look at all your payments, look at what your interest rate is. To get out of debt, the best thing to do is to pay, if you're gonna pay down debt, pay down the lowest debt first, okay? And get that paid so that that payment is eliminated, and then you can apply that to the next debt, all right? Certainly you can do that, and that is the formula of debt acceleration that a lot of people use. Now, if you have enough cash flow and you can carry the debt, I like to buy assets. I like to buy assets that create cash flow. And so it's been much easier for me to get out of debt to refinance an asset that's cash flowing and use some of that money to buy additional assets and cash flow and pay down some debt. Now you probably didn't expect that. So I'm using debt to build wealth. I'm borrowing money to buy assets to put money in my pocket, right? Right now at this time of this video, you can borrow money under 3% and inflation is probably 4 or 5 or 6. So you have a net gain in terms of your cost of money. It's almost zero after tax. So my suggestion is that your mindset on getting rid of debt should not just be focused on, I want to pay off these bills, but should also be focused on, I want to get some assets that produce cash flow that bring me money. And too often you will see, and I've seen this, everybody's focused on paying off the debt, but they're not focused on building wealth and cash flow. And while they're taking their money and they're paying off all this debt, they're not getting debt for assets that produce cash flow. Those assets are going up astronomically in value over a long period of time. And so now that asset that you could have bought for $100,000 is now $180,000. Well, you could have owned it at 100 and had 80,000 in equity, but by not having that equity, you'll not have that ability to borrow that money to pay off other debts and reorganize your cash flow and your debts so that you have less debt that are for consumers and credit cards and other things, and get rid of those payments and have debt on your assets that bring you cash flow and self-pay off by tenants paying the rent. Okay, now that's a little bit different thinking, isn't it? But that's how the wealthy think. The wealthy will borrow money. I remember standing on stage years ago to a bunch of doctors talking about real estate, and I was like, you know, you're worried about 100, 200,000 in debt for these doctors. Like, I got millions of debt, and I'm not that worried because I'm using that debt to build equity and to get cash flow from tenants that pay off that debt. So part of your thinking has to be not just how to get rid of debt, but also how to build cash flow and get an asset base of properties that's going to grow with you over the long period of time. You're going to build equity through 3 ways. 1, increase in value. 2, tenants paying off the debt. And 3, increasing the rents over time or the cash flow. That's the very interesting thing about investment property, is that as you increase cash flow, you increase value. The value of income producing properties like retail properties or mini storage or apartment buildings, okay, is that the value of the building is really most determined by the net operating income, which I talk about in other videos, and the cap rate. So the more that that property brings in money, the higher the value. Well, most of you know, over the last 10 years, your rent has hardly ever, if ever, gone down. It continues to go up over time, okay? If your rent continues to go up over time, and not always, we have obviously changes in the cycle and dips and such, but in terms of value of your assets go up with rental income. And now, if you don't have any, how are you going to build any wealth? You can't, right? You have to have income property. You have to. It's a must, in my opinion. Now, you could talk to brokers, attorneys, accountants to help you learn about your tax benefits, but that's what I do. So another way to get out of debt and build wealth is to make more money. And one of the challenges for a lot of people is when you're in a job, which some people call means just over broke, which a lot of people who have a job are, all your income, you pay tax on everything, and then you have the difference, right? So another way to do this is to start your own business. Get a side gig and start making money on the side with your knowledge and skills. You know, all your intellectual property in your brain, leverage that intellectual property so that you can build wealth with it. I talk about that in some of my other videos, like how to build wealth in your 30s and how to build wealth in your 20s. I talk about how to take intellectual property, things you know how to do, and scale that into a business to create income. That income then is used to help you build wealth and get out of debt. And a lot of people that I know that are very wealthy, they had their own business. Even if they worked a job, they had a side gig that built them business. And as that business and side gig went up, they got rid of their job and they just did their side gig. But they didn't get rid of them at the same time. They kept their job and brought enough money until their side gig was big enough to where they could get out of the side gig, right? So today I'm in a very successful yoga studio that is an owner who is a broker who's involved in real estate, right? But he started the side gig of starting his own yoga studios because that's his passion, right? And eventually he'll have multiple studios. So again, he had a business as a realtor doing real estate, and then from there developed his own business with cash flow, people paying monthly fees for the yoga studio, you see? So he used his intellectual property of understanding about retail property and now renting and leasing real estate property and building an empire of people paying him money every month to provide a service, in this case, yoga. You could do that with many different services, some of which you may be working in a job to do right now. I've had my camera person's today's sister worked in optometry, and we talked about how she could get several optometrists and handle their billing and their management. So instead of just doing one and having a job, she could do multiple and have all of them and do them remotely and help them with their collections and their billing, and eventually potentially start her own billing company. And now that side gig becomes a business, you see? So that's another way to build wealth and get out of debt, is to think outside the box and look at what other people are doing and how they're building wealth. Don't forget to subscribe. This is another way to build wealth, is by learning and educating yourself, which you're already on the path to doing. Maintain your curiosity, learn from others who are wealthy, and surround yourself with successful people. And one of the successful people you can surround yourself with is me. So go ahead and subscribe. I'm Paul McGuire, and I'm happy to help you in any way I can. And I'm doing all these videos. I do a free video every day, 5 days a week, to help you learn how to earn and how to make money. And finally, in terms of getting out of debt and building wealth, realize that patience is important, knowing how much you owe is important, and hustling is important. I was talking to a friend of mine this morning, and she's making about a little over $16 an hour working in a lab. You know, she wasn't even sure what she was making. I had to have her go through that. And we looked at her finances, and she's about $1,000 short every month, and she's wondering why she's struggling. So in her case, she's really going to have to either get a second job or create a side business. Well, her side business is she's getting her education as an esthetician, where she could charge $60 to $100 for a session. They call them a back facials, which means, you know, cleaning the back or the face. So here is an opportunity for you to build wealth, is to increase your education and create a service or learn a service that has more value than you selling your time in a job. Very important that you always learn how to earn and continue to educate yourself. You already have that inclination because you're watching this video. So it's important that as you learn how to earn, you can look at things you're passionate about. In her case, healthcare, skin, makeup. And she got into being an esthetician. It wasn't a lot of money, and she'll be able to increase her ability to earn and have the flexibility of time of scheduling her own time and doing her own appointments. So there you go. Thanks for watching, and be sure to join me on the next video where I'm going to talk about how to build wealth in your 30s. Pretty fun video. Make sure you watch. See you soon.